First little bit of reading. This is The Silent Word, um, chapter 23, The Second Tramp. The Mondali settled in. They knew it would be only a temporary stay, filling in the time until they went to Persia, but it felt like home. In the morning, Slamson, Masaji, and Padri went to Nagar and bought supplies. Some swept up the place. Baidul and Nervous resumed the general work they had left only 7 weeks ago, and others started getting a meal ready. When the dal rice, was ready, they all sat down and Baba took a little and ate, and then distributed the remainder to the companions. Later on, Baba chalked out a work, recreation, and sleep schedule, the recreation being talks and explanations by him, and games. A very satisfactory timesheet indeed, one of them said. But the next morning after breakfast, the first since they had gone on the walk, Baba had a new idea. It would be better to go to Bombay, where there would be more jobs available and where he could be by himself all through the day. They would stay in the office at Dadar. He would like them all to give some thought to the proposal. The two main things to consider were the cramped living quarters. Would they be able to manage all right? And every man must get a job, even if it meant doing coolie work. No sooner were they out of bed the following morning than Baba asked them to let him have their opinions that day. So they had a conference in one of the dilapidated huts, and after tossing the talk around for a while, they reported to Baba their decisions to go with him. He said that any of them could go back to their homes for the period if they wished. All stood to their decision, and so Baba gave the order to pack. They arrived at Dadar early on the 13th July and went to the office, which they found damp and dirty from a leak in the roof. However, they all went off job hunting. Baidul was the first to get one within the restaurant where he had worked during the Manzila meme period. Nervous had been boasting that he would have no trouble in getting work as a cinema operator. Indeed, he would also get jobs for two more as his assistants. By the 17th, all except a couple kept at home on domestic duties had got work. Baba began eating vegetables. He told Ramju, Doctor, and Kak Saheb that they could resume meat eating if they wished, but they could not determine whether he really meant it or was playing an opening move in a new game. So they said they didn't particularly want to start eating meat again. At least there was no hurry about it. So Baba told them to continue as vegetarians until April next year, according to the Special Order Number 4, operative till that time. A few half-hearted attempts were made to sell some copies of the Marathi edition of Maharaja's biography. The Gujarati edition was ready for the binder. On 10th August, Baba said they would all go to Lonavala for a few days, and Ramju and Doctor were sent to make arrangements. But on the 16th, only five, Gustaji, Baramji, Barsop, Adi, and Rustamji, went. They were met by a certain Mr. Abdul Tiab and taken by car to Mr. Madni's bungalow, which was placed entirely at their disposal for as long as Baba would grace it. Baba was very happy with the place and its surroundings and pleased with Madni's devotion. They spent 5 days in discussions, playing cards, listening to the gramophone, and sightseeing. Sadashiv and Vajifdar came up one day from Pune, and Baba told Sadashiv that he would come and stay with him on his way back to Bombay. Baba visited doctors and Ramju's homes. Leaving those two to tidy up the bungalow, Baba and the rest left in the evening by car for Pune, but came back in the early hours of the morning because of Sadashiv's indifference to him. After lengthy deliberation, it was decided that the party go back to Pune and stay with Abdullah Bai. But in order to save disappointment to Sadashiv and the Kasba party, they should be allowed to look after the food for Baba's party. Ramju was sent by the afternoon train to arrange it. Abdullah Bai was only too pleased to have Baba in his large house and wanted also to attend to the food, but Ramju said they had better leave it as Baba had told them. Ramju then saw Sadashiv and told of the new arrangement, and he said he would see to the food. But later, Sadashiv sent a note to Ramju saying that he was sorry, but he couldn't attend to the food, and Ramju should get someone else to look after it. Zooming the recording, here's Diana reading.
Baba came in the evening by train, and Ramju told him what had taken place. That night, there was the procession of Tazias, it being the 9th of Moharram, and Abdullah Bai had arranged seats with a good view for the party. But the whole of the next morning was held in the skirts of a storm because of Sadashiv. In the afternoon, Baba went by himself, the Mandali going later, to Arjun's place, and Sadashiv came to see him, and a peace was restored. Sadashiv provided the evening meal, and Baba and the Mandali returned to Abdullah Bai's place for the night, and it was left that way for the rest of the visit, except for one night when they all were going on a picnic the next day, and it was thought better to all leave from the same point. But it was a disturbed night, for the Patil's house was infested with bugs. The following evening, 30th of August, the party returned to Bombay, stopping on the way to visit a certain Mr. Mulak in Kirki, a suburb of Pune, and having the evening meal with him. Baba now found the office inadequate for living quarters. Also, the landlord was complaining about so many occupying it. So they inspected some rooms in a new building and decided to take them. Then Baba found them to be not quite convenient, preferring space in another new building. In this building, they started to move. Into this building, they started to move. But Baba said that it was not really suitable for their purpose and to try again. At last, they found a place called Irani Mansions, number 6, and this seemed to satisfy him. So work on the Gujarati edition of Maharaja's biography was pushed on with so that they could be presented with the first copy the following month, when Baba intended taking the Mandali on foot to Sakori for his darshan. Those who had outside jobs had their meals out, and so less time was taken up with cooking. Circle and Company was formally dissolved. The first batch of books came the day before they left for Sakori. This leaving was at 3 a.m., 19th October. A bullock cart had been bought to take the luggage. Baidul drove it for the whole journey. The route lay through Thana, Biwadi, Hagda, Asangaon, Shahpur, Khardi, Kasara, Igatpuri, Koti, Bari, Rajur, Akola, Sangamnar, Nimgaon, Jalike, Loni, Bableshwar, Sakori. Gustaji had not been well when the party left Bombay. By the time they reached Kasara, he was quite done in and stumbled into the Dharmshala some time behind the others. Immediately addressing Adi, Baba asked him to ask Gustaji whether he was going to prepare Baba's food. If so, when? For it was getting late. Gustaji told Adi not to meddle in his affairs. Baba started abusing Gustaji and then everyone in general, then pleading with them for what God only knew, and then crying over his own miserable condition until Gustaji could not stand any more and left, walking towards the railway station. Baba sent Baramji after him to bring back, and when he came, he quickly pacified him. They were allowed to sleep for an hour before they had a meal, after which they bathed and washed their clothes in a small stream. Baba told those who had blisters to rub them with oil and warm them before the fire. This remedy proved wholly efficacious. In the evening, Rustem was sent ahead 13 miles on a train to Igatpuri to arrange for a good breakfast for everyone and then rejoin the party. They left Kasara at 3:30 in the morning. Despite frequent shoulder to the wheel over rough patches of the road, the long climb to Igatpuri was too much for the bullock, and they took over its burden for a few miles. After the 13-mile tramp, the Mandali were looking forward to a good meal, but on arrival at the hotel, they found that the hotel keeper had not prepared anything, as he was not sure when to expect the party. Instead of getting angry with the men, Baba ordered a good lunch for them. Then they rested. At 4 o'clock, Baba called them to go sightseeing, or rather, reviewing a lake opposite the bungalow they were camped in. They struggled to their feet, reluctant to leave the shade and go out into the still hot sunlight. Noting this, Baba inquired, "Who will feel pleasure in going down to the lake with me?" No one spoke. "Well, who would like to play cards?" he said. No one was interested. "All right, if none of you want to speak to me, I can also be silent. If I need to communicate something, I will do so through Baram." He kept up his silence all the next day and preferred to walk apart with the new favorite, as the others called Baram. There was talk of going to see the great Bandardara Dam. The Mandali were keen to go, but would not unless Baba gave up his silence, which was uncomfortable for everybody. Through Baramji, Baba said that the real reason why he had become silent was that they did not like to talk in his own language, that they did not like him to talk in his own language, and he did not want to hurt them by so speaking. But they said that if it was their feelings he was considering, he should certainly end this silence because that hurt them more than his constant kut-kut or grumblings. So a telegram was sent to Mr. Aziz Ahmed, the assistant engineer at the dam, who was a devotee of Baba's, the same Aziz Ahmed who had visited Baba in Manzil Mim. "Baba and party arriving Bari tomorrow morning, so please make conveyance arrangements from Bari to Bandardar." Aziz replied that he was honored and delighted. 10 minutes later, Baba received a copy of a telegram to a Mr. Kaitari, one of the officers at the dam, from Aziz, telling him to see that the party had plenty of food and whatever else they needed. Baba told Ramju, who was on watch duty, to thank him, but tell him they had everything they needed. A little later again, Aziz sent further word that if Baba preferred it, the party could be met at Koti station instead of at Bari. Baba had Ramju reply lengthily and added, exhausted, preparing for sleep. Mr. Aziz Ahmed had great enthusiasm, but knew little of what is required of a host who entertains the master. And Baba paid only a short visit, returning to the rest house for the rest of the day and night. The next day they left Bari for Rajur, and after meals and sleep at that place, were on the road to Akola at 4 a.m., 13 miles of easy descent from the Ghat in 3 hours. They arrived at 7 o'clock and put up at the PWD bungalow. Special jalebis cooked in ghee were prepared in the local bazaar, and Baba made rich coffee with all milk, a fine breakfast. In view of the tramp approaching its destination very soon, there was a discussion on the details of the visit to Sakori. It was now Monday, 29th October. It was decided that they reach the place on the morning of 1st November, and after spending the day there, rejoin Baba at a spot in the near vicinity. He would not be going to the ashram. Rustam and Sadashiv looked a bit glum over the short stay, and Baba told them they could stay longer if they wished. They went on through Akola and arrived at Nimgaon after doing 26 miles, and were allowed to sleep in the next morning. After a breakfast dinner, they left at 10 o'clock. They stopped at Loni, a village, for a few of the hottest hours, and then went on to Bableshwar, which they reached at sunset, where they made tea and an old woman prepared a meal for them. It was only 10 miles to the ashram. Baba asked them to fast now until they had Maharaj's darshan, and then to accept whatever was offered them. They were up at 4 a.m., happy with the successful conclusion of their tramp, and excited over the prospect of meeting Maharaj again. Baba remained in the bungalow with Slamson. Passing a garden, Rustam had the idea of getting a garland and asked the gardener to make one. He agreed to do so for 8 annas. But when it was finished, Rustamji was so pleased with it that he wanted to give him something more. But nobody had any money. So he emptied his pockets, a pencil, a piece of soap, a silk handkerchief, and a few small coins, and gave them to the astonished gardener. Presently, they picked up Vajifdar, Kardun, and Bourgeorgi, who had come on Baba's order, and arrived at the ashram on the 14th day after leaving Bombay. There was a great change in the place in the 12 months since the last visit of the Mandali. The temple had been completed, and many smaller buildings also, and the barren compound was green with small trees and shrubs Maharaj had planted and tended with his own hands. Let's take a rest here, please.
Hey, I've resumed the recording, and this is Marvin reading.
The Mandali waited a while at the compound gate, and then were told that they could go and take Maharaj's darshan. But no sooner had 3 or 4 of them entered the hut than he began abusing them and told them all to get out. He was still in his cage. They beat a hasty retreat. Maharaj continued to rage. Although Baba had prepared them for something like this, the actual performance was too unnerving for most of them. That this same man who had in the past treated them so lovingly, spending hours talking with them, looking after their meals, should now, after they had walked 200 miles to see him, treat them in this manner, shocked them. After a few minutes of this storm, Maharaj sent for Gustaji and Sadashiv and Baramji separately and gave each an individual serving of abuse. Then, addressing them collectively, he said, "You so-and-sos have put me in this cage, and yourselves go about from place to place. Have you obliged me by walking 200 miles? Keep on doing what you are doing under instructions by whoever is your somebody." Now go back to where you have to return. In spite of Gustaji's hints and pleading, Maharaj would not have the Mandali come into his hut. So word was sent to him through Yeshwantrao to let them come near and take his darshan before they left. After 1 hour, the reply came that they could pay their respects to him from the compound gate and leave immediately. In the meantime, Durgamai and Yeshwantrao had served them tea, and now as they were leaving, handed them a parcel of bread, besan, sweets, and fruits for their breakfast, which they ate a little way away. The bullock and cart were handed over to Yeshwantrao to dispose of. Baidul thus had his first walk during the whole journey. They arrived back at the bungalow around sundown, and Baba had kept hot bread and nice vegetables ready for them. The next couple of hours soon went by, with the Mandali telling Baba about the visit, and he explaining to them what it all meant. In the morning, they were picked up by a motor lorry and taken to Nagar. But because of a breakdown, they did not arrive until early afternoon. They put up at Kushru quarters, and Rustam's family members gave them a good meal. Babu Rao and Sadashiv Rao were sent to Pune. Scroll.
End of chapter.
Oh. Let me pause the recording. Back to Honey Bunny reading. Chapter 24, Iran. First part. Either first part or it's an I, capital I. On the second morning, when they were about to sit down to breakfast, Rustam showed some lack of attention, and Baba got up abruptly and left the place, and joined in a moment by the Mandali, walked to the station Dharamshala. The whole day was spent discussing for the 1,000th time the different routes to Iran and the advantages and disadvantages of travel in different seasons. For it was to that place Baba now wished to go. The final outcome of it was, first of all, who would be going. Baba named Gustaji, Behramji Adi, Dr. Vajifdar Ramju Agabaidul, Padri Slamson Masaji, and Nervas. Each was to sign on a stamped paper that he was undertaking the journey of his own free will and responsibility. He did not expect any kind of external and financial help from Baba for any definite internal benefit. That for might be an or. And financial help from Baba or any definite internal benefit during the period of travel. That he would accompany Baba for an indefinite period, leaving all hopes, if required, of ever returning to India. Doctor and Ramju were not included in the last clause, as they would be free of all bindings and promises after 28th February 1924. They would start from Bombay on the 11th and go to Bandar Abbas at the entrance to the Persian Gulf via Karachi, where they might stay for some time, or, if preferred by all, to Hyderabad, Sindh. Vajifdar, however, was to stay in Bombay until December. Ramju and Doctor were allowed to go home for a few days, and Padri would go to Bombay to attend to passports and make travel arrangements. By now, all the Mandali had fully surrendered to Baba and accepted him as their guru or murshid. This was not from any virtue of their own, but by the daman of his grace, which he flung over them. On the evening of 5th November, Dr. Ramju, Vajifdar, and Padri left for Pune, where they took Babajan's darshan and went on to Lonavala and Bombay. Doctor and Ramju returned to Nagar on the 11th and found Baba and the other companions sitting outside the Dharmshala in the early morning sun, having enjoyed a 6-day holiday. After their namaskar to Baba and exchange of news, Baba served them bread and tea. Then he inspected their clothes and bedding and made a tally of cooking pots and sundry pieces, including a pressure stove. On the previous trips, Baramji had been luggage manager, but now he demurred, saying that the others never fully accepted his instructions. But this was smoothed over, and everything was weighed in by the time the train came. On Baba's express wish, only Rustamji came to see them off. He garlanded Baba and gave bouquets to the others. And also a hamper of food, which Baba served to them all after the train left, and they had settled down. Someone noticed that Nervous was not with them. Baba asked everyone where he could be and then said it was no matter. Ramju could wait for him at Manmad and bring on to Jalgaon. This was done, and they all breakfasted together at that place. From there they went on through a countryside golden with harvest, past Bardoli, the stronghold of Mahatma Gandhi, and reached Surat in the evening. To fill in time, Baba, with some of the party, strolled through the bazaar. They came across a boy in pitiful state, and when he was asked his story, he said he had come from his native place to Surat to obtain work, but had become ill and was penniless. Baba told one of them to take the boy to a hotel and get him a good meal, and another to buy a ticket to the boy's hometown. When those things were done, Baba gave him the ticket and spoke some words of encouragement to him. But then a police sub-inspector intervened and, ignoring the Mandali's pleas, detained the boy. They went on to Ahmedabad, which they reached early the next morning, and a few hours later went on to Hyderabad, Sindh. I guess Sindh was the old name of Pakistan. My interjection. The Mandali were looking forward to sightseeing in this city, but after a brief look around, Baba said it was too dusty a place to stay in, and they continued on to Karachi, where Bailey had been wired to meet them. As soon as they had alighted, and Baba had accepted Bailey's greetings, the two inspected several bungalows which Bailey had lined up and selected one, and all retired there. All were given brooms and buckets to make the place habitable. And in the evening, they all gathered around Baba, and during talk, Bailey proposed that they should give the place a name. Many were suggested until Baba and he together said Halt Ho, which was approved by all. The bungalow was taken for 2 months, and the Mandali again felt that they were settled in at least for a while, for ever since their stay at Manzil Mim, they had been hoping that Baba would establish another such ashram. But Baba presently presented a new plan. They would not enter Iran at Bandar Abbas, but from Basra at the head of the Gulf, and to go immediately. Vajifdar was wired to send the passports and money, and Bailey went into the city to make inquiries about a boat and to inform the landlord that they were not staying. The latter could not be seen that day. Some time later, a telegram came from Vajifdar saying that the Irani consul in Bombay refused to endorse their passports unless presented by each traveler. In a letter which followed, he said that that condition did not apply to Baba, who had called at the consulate only a few days ago and said he would send his man with the passport for endorsement. By evening, the excitement of immediacy had largely ebbed away, and Baba said that in the morning they could all go out and get work. Padri and Baidul got jobs straight away. Doctor said he was fed up with everything, especially this settlement, and asked permission to return to Pune. Baba gave permission and also said that he could rejoin them whenever he liked. And let's change reader. Sorry, there's just another paragraph to finish. A few days later, after taking Bailey aside and talking with him, Baba called the Mandali together and told them that they were going back to Bombay. There was a boat sailing that evening if they preferred it to the train. All voted for the boat, and by 2:30 in the afternoon, they, with all their luggage, were at the pier where they boarded the SS Vita and made themselves comfortable on the upper deck. Baba allowed them to enjoy the sea view for a while and then put them on, quote unquote, picking rice. They docked in Bombay on the 24th. Okay, I've resumed the recording, and this is Marcia reading.
Okay, 25, The Solitude. According to the plan, Baba had told the companies during the sea stretch.
Companions.
Companions during the sea stretch, they now split up. Slamson, Padri, and Nervous were to stay in Bombay separately. The rest went to Victoria Terminus, from where Massa and Adi got tickets to Avignagar. Baidul and Behramji to Pune, and Baba, Gustaji, Doctor, and Ramju to Lonavla, all taking the same train. Every precaution was to be taken to keep Baba's return secret. But the secrecy was almost lost at the very beginning. Ramju spotted Doctor's father making for the compartment Baba was in. He quickly went up to him and took his arm and guided him to another compartment. As a further precaution, Baba and Gustaji got down at Kalandala, and Doctor and Ramju went to Lonavala to get Abdul Tayyab to find a vacant bungalow, and then come on with his car and meet Baba. Baba had started walking and was halfway when they met him. The next 2 or 3 days were spent in looking for a place where Baba could spend some time in solitude without food or water and not be disturbed. A wire was sent to Vashifdar to come. He arrived the following morning, and after receiving certain instruction from Baba, returned to Bombay. Baba and Gustaji left that night without telling Doctor and Ramju where they were going. They went to Pune, where Behramji joined them. That was 29th November. They stayed there all the next day, but avoided seeing anyone, and in the evening left by train for Sholapur. The third-class carriage was crowded, and Bayram was drowsy. Oh, battery's getting low, so okay. They went to Pune, where Behramji joined them. That was the 29th November. They stayed there all the next day, but avoided seeing anyone, and in the evening left by train to Sholapur. The third-class carriage was crowded, and Bayram was drowsy, so Baba moved over a bit to give him more comfort, but hardly had he drifted away in sleep when Baba nudged him awake and as he was blinking his red eyes, he heard Baba saying, "Don't you feel ashamed to be sleeping when I'm awake?" They reached Sholapur at midnight and got down. Gustaji got into a tangle with a policeman whose inquisitiveness was aroused by the very odd assortment of packages, including a pressure stove and cooking pots, and he called the ticket collector, who called the station master. Baba got bored and went to the WC. When he returned, the station master said that the lavatory was for first and second class passengers only. Baba pointed to the sign, "Gentlemen," on the door, and the station manager became reasonable. Bayram swept clean an area outside the station and spread their beddings. Before they could go to sleep, Baba noticed the Parsi guard going off duty. He asked Gustaji to approach him to arrange a shelter for them for the night. The guard was most amiable and went and saw the station master and asked him to let the party sleep in the first class waiting room, and he was happy to do so. It was nearly 3 o'clock in the morning before they went to sleep, but hardly was it 5 when Baba was up and roused the other two. Behramji was sent to find a place where they could get some breakfast, and soon reported back that there was a very ordinary hotel about a quarter-mile away. They rolled up their beddings and went to the place, and Baba ordered bread and butter and tea. The place was filthy with myriads of flies buzzing around. Baba asked Behramji, was that his idea of a very ordinary-looking place? When the bread and butter was brought, the butter was found to be stinking, and Baba got up and left without even tasting the tea. They took a tonga and set out for nowhere. That is, they told the Tongawala to just drive about anywhere. There was a big fair in honor of a local saint going on. There were scores of toy shops, all glistening under electric light in the still dark morning. After some hours of rambling about, they came to a dak bungalow, finely situated, and dismissing the toga, engaged a room, asking the manager to prepare dal rice for Gustaji and Behram to be ready in 1 hour. Behram was detailed to get milk for Baba. After tramping about for nearly an hour, he came back very red and perspiring. It was now early afternoon, and said that milk was not obtainable at that hour. Baba became very angry with him, and he got redder and hotter, and then went off again with Baba telling him that he must bring milk by 3 o'clock, or Baba would fast for 36 hours. Behramji found a milk vendor, who said he would go into the jungle and milk a buffalo, specially for him, if he would pay a rupee for a seer, about 1.5 pints of it. Behram agreed to this, and leaving the vessel with him, told the man to bring it to the bungalow. It was now well past 2 o'clock, and so Behram thought he had better go back and tell Baba that the matter was in hand, but it might be a little more than 3 o'clock before they got the milk. This caused another round of abuse, especially because of Behram's leaving the vessel with the man that was worth more than a rupee. And how did Behram know that the man would keep it or not bring the milk at all? However, it was not long before the milkman came. Baba drank a little of the milk, while Gustaji and Behram ate the meal made ready for them. And after they made tea, and after that they made tea with the remainder. I can't see the rest of the milk. They then went back to the station, and Behramji
Wait,
brought.
we skipped a paragraph there.
I did? Oh, how do you like that?
The book and the online version seem to be slightly
Oh,
different.
okay. Wait, there's a paragraph here in the book. I'll let me read it.
Yeah, because it's not
Baba,
here.
Baba now declared that from then, 1st December, he would take food once every 34 hours, and that would be milk, fruit juice, or tea. And Gustaji and Baramji would eat and drink every 24 hours. Okay.
They then went back to the station, and Behramji bought 3 tickets to Akolner, which is near Ahmednagar. He tendered a 5 rupee note and should have received 9 annas change, but the booking clerk evidently mistook the note for a 10 rupee one and gave him back 5 rupees, 9 annas. Bayram went back and asked Baba what he should do, and he said to give it back to the clerk. Their funds were now exhausted. They boarded the night train to Dand and there changed to the Manmad line. No sooner had they settled down than a ticket collector asked them to vacate the compartment as it was being reserved for military personnel. Gustaji wanted to thrash it out, but Baba told him to give in, so they changed into another compartment.
Thank you, Marcia.
Okay.
Let's.
Where are we?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yes, we have Diana reading now.
Okay. At a corner, excuse me, Baba and Gustaji got down with the luggage, and Baramji continued on to Ahmednagar and found Rustam and told him that Baba was nearby, but he was to keep it a close secret. Meanwhile, some possible places around Akolner for his solitary stay were inspected by Baba and Gustaji, but none were satisfactory. Milk was obtained through an obliging railway employee named Ismail, and tea was made. Presently, Baramji returned with Rustamji, who brought food for the two. A further search was made for a suitable spot. One was at last found that met with Baba's approval, and the owner, a retired Brahmin station master who held extensive lands round about with many good wells, was approached to allow them to camp for a few days as one of them was sick and would like to stay for a few days for a change. The gentleman readily agreed, and Rustamji was sent back to Nagar to purchase a small tent. The others spent the night on the railway platform. In the morning, Rustam brought the tent and also Gustaji's and Baramji's meal. The tent was pitched, but they all, including Baba, slept out in the open on the cold November night. Towards morning, it was so cold that they gathered dry leaves and sticks and made a fire to warm their shivering bodies. In spite of obtaining and pitching the tent, Baba was not quite happy with the place and said they would go on to Arangaon. Accordingly, in the evening, Baba and Baramji, accompanied by Ismail for some distance, followed the railway line to the camp post office, while Gustaji came in a bullock cart with the luggage. They arrived in the dark, unseen by anyone from the village, and spread their bedding on the veranda. There was an electric storm in the night, and the rain blew in, wetting everything. While it was still dark, Baram went to the village for milk. The man knew him and expressed surprise at seeing him. Baram said that he had come alone to clean the place up for Baba, who would be coming in a few days, and asked him not to mention the matter to anyone. The man said that he would guard his tongue and went inside and came out again with a bucket and rope for drawing water from the well. When told of this, Baba said that the man was blessed to have had the thought of offering the bucket. Baba wanted the tent pitched inside the building, but there was nowhere on the solid floor and on the smooth walls to tie the ropes. Baba kept on grumbling at the delay. In the end, Gustaji said in Gujarati, "If you will only stop talking, I will get it fixed." Baba said he would keep silent until it was done, and somehow or other they managed to rig the thing up. The following day, Adi was allowed to come out from Nagar. He began bringing Gustaji's and Baramji's daily meal, cooked by his mother Gulmai, who was allowed sometimes to come. About the middle of the month, Baba with Gustaji and Baramji went on to Pune, to Sadashiv Patil's place in Kasbapet, and gave darshan to some hundreds. He continued fasting. Then they returned to Arangaon, and he went back into strict seclusion, with still only Rustam, Adi, and Gulmai knowing he was there. On 29th December, Baba wrote to Ramju in Lonavala giving no address. Dear Ramju, you must by now through Bailey, have come to know about my visit to Pune and what happened there. And as you have every right to know of my program, read the following and inform Doctor also. But both of you, keep the matter a dead secret. From 1st December till yesterday, I continually fasted for 34 hours at a stretch. Then yesterday, I increased it to each 48 hours. And during the remaining 8 hours, I will take liquids and fruits, but not grain. This will continue by the help of the Almighty until the 31st of January. And from 1st February, I will begin eating regularly. But if my health fails, I am growing weaker day by day, I will give up the new routine and keep on liquids throughout January and begin eating normally on the 1st of February. On the 20th of January, you, Doctor, and the rest of the Mandali will be called to join me. Have no anxiety about any matter. Don't try to reply. God bless you and Doctor. Signed, Merwan. P.S. Let Doctor read this letter. The next day, there was a second letter. Dear Ramju, I hope you received my yesterday's letter, care of Doc. Is that care of Doctor? Now listen. You should be at Lonavala Station on the 31st at 5:30 p.m. We will be going to Bombay by Madras fast passenger. You and Doctor only should be on the platform. You will inform none, not even Tayyab Ali or Pepamian. Bring with you 1 bottle of cocoa freshly made with pure milk. Doctor knows how to prepare it. After seeing me, you will remain in Lonavala for 20 days more. I have grown very weak. Whilst writing this, my hands are shaking. Signed, Merwan. Doctor and Ramju went to the train with the cocoa at the time given, and Baba allowed them to go with him to the next station. He looked very delicate and pale, almost a skeleton, yet he was fresh in spirit and a picture of cheerfulness. Jai Baba. End of chapter.
Jai Baba.